the asylum nurse who followed me home. My grandfather always had unusual tastes. Where most people dreamed of cozy homes or beachside cottages, he chose something else entirely. In his final years, he lived in a place most of us wouldn't step foot in, a place with barred windows, endless hallways, and a history soaked in suffering. It wasn't just a house. It was a former insane asylum. And when he died, he left it to me. I'll never forget my first drive up to that towering sandstone building. The air grew colder the closer I got, as if the land itself wanted to warn me. The asylum rose out of the landscape like a sleeping monster. Gothic spires, a looming clock tower, and windows that seemed to stare back at me. In front of the entrance stood a cracked fountain, long dry, but still whispering of better days. Inside, the air was thick, colder than the autumn chill outside. Long corridors stretched endlessly, lined with wooden doors once meant to keep patients inside. My grandfather had renovated parts of it. His bedroom had been a doctor's office, the kitchen once a sterile examination room. He'd even built a pool hall where patients used to be restrained. I should have felt lucky. This was a mansion compared to my cramped apartment. But as I explored those halls, I couldn't shake the feeling that the building remembered its past and wanted me to remember it too. Not long after moving in, my life began to spiral. Stress at work, failed relationships. The cracks in my mind widened. I'd struggled with mental health before, but here it intensified. Paranoia gripped me. I stopped eating, convinced, without reason, that someone was poisoning my food. Eventually, I sought help. Doctors diagnosed me with schizophrenia. Therapy and medication steadied me, but the irony wasn't lost on me. I was living in an asylum while fighting my own mental illness. My friends joked cruelly. Maybe the house itself was driving me mad, and part of me wondered if they were right. One night, everything changed. I was walking through the dark hallway towards the kitchen, wrapped in a blanket against the icy air. As I passed the rows of doors, I saw movement. A figure, a woman in a crisp, old-fashioned white nurse's uniform, stepped out of one of the patient rooms. She moved with purpose, her shoes clicking against the tile. Her skin was pale as bone, her hair dark, her eyes fixed ahead. At first, I froze, my mind trying to rationalize. A trespasser? A hallucination? But when she turned, locking eyes with me, the blood in my veins turned to ice. Her stare was sharp, unblinking. And then, slowly, she smiled. In her hand gleamed a silver medical instrument, shiny, pointed, something between an ice pick and a surgical tool. I bolted back to my room and slammed the door. I didn't sleep a second that night. Days passed, but she didn't leave. Sometimes I'd see her out of the corner of my eye, slipping in and out of rooms. Sometimes doors I swore I had shut stood open again, as if she wanted me to know she was there. At night, the sound of nurses' shoes echoed down the hallway, tap, 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 growing louder, closer, until I pressed my back against the wall, praying she wouldn't enter. And then came the bathroom mirror. One morning, as I brushed my teeth, I felt the prickling sensation of being watched. In the glass, behind me, her pale face emerged out of nothing. Dark eyes, that same wicked smile. I spun around, but she was gone. The mirror dripped condensation, like she had been breathing against it. I tried to convince myself it was my illness, that this was all inside my mind. But then came the night that shattered that belief forever. I went to bed, locking my door, double-checking it. Hours later, I woke to the soft sound of shoes on the floor. My eyes adjusted to the dark. The door was wide open, and at the foot of my bed, she stood, Nurse Amelia. Her cold eyes scanned me like I was a patient awaiting treatment. Her silver tool glinted in the dark. I screamed, throwing off my blanket, running into the freezing halls. I didn't stop until I was in the kitchen with every light blazing. I waited there until dawn, heart pounding, absolutely knowing that door had been locked. This wasn't my illness. This was her. Desperate, I searched for answers. In the basement storage, I found my grandfather's binder, a thick collection of newspaper clippings, staff letters, and medical notes about the asylum. And there she was, a photograph of nurses on the front steps, dated 1923. At the center, the very woman who had been haunting me. Her name was Amelia. She had been infamous for her cruelty. Records described her as efficient, unsympathetic, and unflinching. Her specialty? Lobotomies. The binder detailed everything: the ice baths, the electroshock therapy, but the lobotomies were the worst. Steel ice picks hammered through eye sockets into the brain. Patients left vacant, broken, or dead, sometimes wide awake, screaming until silence. And Amelia had performed more lobotomies than anyone else. I stared at her photo, her real eyes just as dark and hateful as the ones haunting me now. I couldn't stay alone in that asylum another night. I went to a close friend's house, bringing the binder with me. We sat in her living room, and for the first time in weeks, I felt safer, saner. I told her everything. Out loud, it sounded insane, but she listened. Then she froze. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. Footsteps, sharp, deliberate, coming from her hallway. We both turned, and there she was, Nurse Amelia, standing in the shadows, her white uniform glowing in the dim light, her ice pick and hammer gleaming. "You see her too, right?" I stammered. My friend nodded, pale, unable to speak. The nurse tilted her head, eyes locked on me, her smile widening as if she'd finally found her patient. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't a hallucination. She wasn't trapped in the asylum. She had followed me, and she wasn't going to stop until she finished her work. Subscribe to Mr. Shadow Whisperer